All right, friends, we're going to rock with the makeshift gavel for the moment. Good morning. The March 19th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. The board continues to meet in a hybrid format. For those here in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. For those attending virtually, if you desire an opportunity to speak, we ask that you please keep yourself on mute until the chair recognizes you. When you're called upon, please announce your name and organization and speak loudly and clearly as you present. At this time, I would ask the clerk, Celeste Amato, for any corrections, additions, and noted abstentions for today's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, everyone. We have one correction to note this morning for item SB 2510550. This is a procurement item, award for RFQ 000586, Eating Together in Baltimore. Under amount of money and source, we are deleting GRT 001632 and CCA 000232 and inserting grant work tag GRT 000755 and cost center CCA 001358. We do not have any walk-ons this morning. We have one deferral, the item SB 2510534 for Department of Transportation, extra work order number 8 for contract TR 21018, urgent needs contract citywide for $1,478,080. This item has been deferred at the request of the comptroller. We have the following items that are being withdrawn from the agenda this morning, and they are as follows. SB 2510808 for the council, professional services agreement with Latham Lee and Hoeing LLC for $90,000. This has been withdrawn at the request of the agency. SB 2510562 for procurement, sole source award to Hologic Sales and Services LLC, lab supplies, specimen collection kits. This has been withdrawn at the request of the agency. SB 2510182, Department of Transportation, for fiscal year 25 capital grant agreement for electric buses. This has been withdrawn at the request of the agency. We have no protests or statements to note this morning. On the non-routine agenda, we have the following items. SB 2510582, Bureau of Procurement and unauthorized procurement for Zoo Office Incorporated for $62,517. SB 2510121, Department of Transportation. This was an emergency procurement numbered EPR 000263 for the purchase of traffic lane control signals heads with traffic systems and technology for $174,450. And SB 2510572 for the Department of Public Works. This is Amendment 5 to the agreement with Synagro Technologies LLC for $52,822,800. We have the following abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Mayor Brandon M. Scott is abstaining on SB 2510718 for the mayoralty subaward agreement with Living Classrooms. City Administrator Faith Leach has no abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable President Zeke Cohen has no abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Comptroller Bill Henry is abstaining on all travel requests and all travel reimbursements. City Solicitor Ebony Thompson is abstaining on SB 2510532, Law Department travel request. And Director of Public Works Khalil Zaid has no abstentions to note this morning. There are also no registered no votes on the routine agenda, Mr. President, and that concludes our opening statement.
Thank you, Clerk Amato. At this time, I ask for a motion to approve and adopt the opening statement as read by the clerk.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The opening statement has been adopted. I now direct the board members' attention to the memorandum from my office dated March 19th, 2025, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any corrections, additions, abstentions, and no votes that have been noted by the clerk. I'll entertain a motion to approve all the items contained on the routine agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All of those in favor of approving the items on the non-routine agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The routine agenda items have been adopted. Seeing no further questions, we will now move to the non-routine agenda. The first item on the non-routine agenda is SB 2510582 from the Department of Procurement and the Department of Health. This request is to approve payment of outstanding invoices the Department of Health incurred without a valid contract. On behalf of Procurement, we have Mr. Adam Manny. Mr. Manny, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Council President, Mr. Comptroller, Madam City Administrator, honorable board members, Adam Manning, your Chief Procurement Officer. We're here today to ask permission to do an outstanding payment of $62,517 to Zoo Office. This was done as an unauthorized procurement. It's a little more complex than the normal ones I bring before you, so I'd like to just go through a timeline. Originally in May 23rd of 2012, the board awarded a contract to Jadin Inc. for these services. These services are used by the health department for storing data related to environmental health and other factors. Jadin merged with Zoo Office on August 26th of 2016, but they continue to operate under the Jadin name and work. The BOE approved an extension for Jadin on February 13th, 2020, which would take it through June 30th of 2023. On that SCON, there is still a balance of $64,966. For the services between 23 and 24, the invoices were below the threshold that were needed for a formal contract, and they were paid following the correct processes. And there were two invoices, one for $21,000, one for $13,000, for two different software services. In May of 24, May 24th of 24, nope, wrong one, sorry about that. In May of 24, the supervisor started the renewal process to pay for the 24 through 25 services, which is what we're here asking to pay for. Software services are traditionally paid up front, all the licensing fees prior to the start of the year. There was issues with the supervisor where he or she was then suspended in June of 24. On August of 24, 24th of 24, Jadin officially was dissolved, and now the company was formally working just under the Zoo Office name and TIN number. We needed to then have Zoo Office register in Workday, have their TIN number, do the changes, make everything moving over. In November of 2024, the supervisor was terminated their employment with the city. The supervisor had created a requisition to start the process to pay these, but we had to then cancel that requisition because it was in the supervisor's name and create a new requisition to move forward so that we can move these forward. We have created the new requisition. The funds are encumbered. Nothing will happen until after we have the board's permission. There is a new contract currently in review with the legal department. We are just waiting on one last thing so we can move forward. We expect to bring the new contract for the 25-26, actually from 25 through 28 to this board within the next 60 to 90 days so that we can move forward. That's where we stand. It was a combination of Jadin switching to Zoo Office along with the employee and some administrative changes, which brought us to this point where we did not have a valid contract in place for the 24-25 licensing. And we're asking permission to pay for those.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board? Comptroller Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with paying the people for the services that we already received. I am looking through this tale of woe for, is there any place where we could, going forward, improve our processes to reduce something like that happening again? I see nothing we can do about a company changing its name or merging with another company, but I'm wondering, would it be possible to make changes to our system so that if you needed to change the name on a requisition, you could just change the name on the requisition rather than having to like delete it and
We
start
can
over?
put in a request to the change process
Yeah.
for Workday. We can put that into the change management process for that. Additionally, I've mentioned before in these meetings, we are working with our partners at BSIT to see if we can identify a contract lifecycle management system, which will then aid us and put us ahead of the curve on this. And it's not just for procurement.
Sure.
It would be for citywide. So hopefully, we will have that. And additionally, as I've mentioned, we brought on a contract administrator. He's been doing great work with fire right now and some others, and part of his task is to start looking at these so we can start in procurement, getting ahead of the curve and identifying these contracts, not just when we hit our spend limits, but also saying, hey, is this contract we expect to expire within the next 6 months? What are we doing? Will we be renewing it? So that way procurement will be proactive with the departments and agencies where we're getting there.
If you can identify, the optimal contract management platform, I would be a huge supporter of making everybody use it.
It's a citywide effort, sir, being
Yeah.
led by BSET. It's for
Okay.
global. There's a whole team. Our clerk is a member on it as we're identifying these and moving forward. So we are looking at that to see if we can identify something which will help, not just procurement, health, and others as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. That's it, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. Any other questions? Nope. Hearing and seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The item is approved. Next item is SB 251-0121, a request from the Department of Transportation for the board to note an emergency procurement with traffic systems and technology. On behalf of the administration, we have a member of the Department of Transportation. The floor is yours.
I'm Hassan Raza, Deputy Director and Chief Engineer. I'm here on behalf of our director who couldn't
Tilt the microphone down a little bit.
who couldn't make it. So this is action is requested affirmation of previously approved emergency procurement request for the one-time purchase of new lane control signals in the amount of $174,450. The background for this request is that the current overhead lane use control signals on the Hanover Street Bridge were originally installed back in 1986, and at this time they are hardly visible. The Hanover Street Bridge currently consists of 5 lanes, the 2 northbound, 2 southbound, and 1 reversible middle lane. The brightness of traffic signal has diminished to an unacceptable level, causing unsafe conditions for travel in the reversible lane. There have been numerous reports of near-miss head-on collisions, particularly from staff of MedStar Hospital. Additionally, traffic volumes have increased following the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, increasing the potential for increased head-on collisions in the reversible lane. The new LED signals are being procured through an existing DOT vendor, which has saved the agency approximately 6 months from using normal procurement practices. The signals will arrive in May 2025, and the new lane control signals will provide increased visibility to motorists, thereby preventing potential collision. And this is a critical safety need for this important commuter corridor. The timeline, back in October 24, we developed an action plan to increase the visibility of the traffic control signals. We got approval for emergency procurement in November 24. We ordered the new signals in December, and we'll be receiving them in May, and we will install them soon afterward. I just want to mention that these signals been there for close to 40 years, and we were going to change them a few years ago, but there has been a discussion about rehabilitation or replacement of Hanover Street Bridge, which is still several years ago. So there are unsafe conditions which really compels us to do something now before we have any serious accidents. Any questions?
Questions from the board? I'm just going to jump right in here. Appreciate it. Given that this thing is almost as old as I am, could better planning, knowing that the life cycle of any piece of infrastructure, it's going to, die eventually. Could we have planned this more in advance instead of having to do it in emergency fashion?
Yeah, a lot has to do with the availability of funds because there are competing needs. And this is a kind of same situation as the rest of the signal system in city of Baltimore, which have exceeded their service lives. Every time there's a wind, there is a rain or something, they go off, they start flashing, or they completely go off. And here is the same situation, where at one time we thought that will make the middle lane just the northbound after the Key Bridge collapse, so that we avoid that thing. But what's happening is in the morning the traffic is northbound, and in the morning it is southbound. So if we do it just one way, then we're going to have queues during afternoon. But there's always room for improvement. We can always do better. It's just that with the resources we have, both staffing as well as funding, we just have to do the best we can. But again, as I said, we can always do better.
Sure, understood. City Administrator?
Thank you so much, Mr. Council President. I wanted to add just a little bit of context because I've spent a lot of time digging into the city signal system. So we have about 1,400 signals across the city, and the general life cycle of a signal is what, about 30 years?
Yes.
So it's about 30 years, and the majority of the city signals are older than 30 years old. If we were to go out and replace every single signal that is over 30 years old, it would cost us between $500 and $800 million. And so, when DOT talks about the challenges when it comes to funding, they are real. It costs about $250,000, I think, per signal, and that does not include maintenance. It doesn't include the actual communication technology so that we can coordinate and communicate between signals. It's not a ATMS system, if you will, which is the comprehensive traffic management system. And so, we are being thoughtful about how we approach this issue. But when we have, challenges with HUR or other funding sources, that's when we get behind in replacing things like signals across the city. But it's a very real need and something that we've been very much focused on in this administration.
Thank you, City Administrator. Any other questions?
She actually answered my question, so I don't have any more for him.
Great. Well done. Okay. We will, seeing no further questions, we are going to note this item.
Any
Thank you.
other question?
No, we're good.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I would also note my colleague, Councilmember Ramos, is here. Councilmember, thank you for joining us. The next item on the non-routine agenda is SB 2510572, Department of Public Works. This request is to approve an amendment to the agreement DPW has with Synagro Technologies LLC to service the Back River wastewater treatment plant. On behalf of DPW, we have Mr. Garbark. Mr. Garbark, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, Madam Administrator, Mr. Comptroller, honorable members of the Board of Estimates. We do have a presentation on this. This item is a $52.8 million contract extension with Synagro Technologies for processing and disposing of solid organic material at the Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant. The Back River plant is a highly advanced wastewater treatment plant. It's the largest in the state of Maryland. It's designed to handle 180 million gallons of wastewater a day. It averages around 130 million. Now, the main function of wastewater treatment plants is to separate the solids from the liquids and provide the cleanest and highest quality effluent that's discharged into our waterways. Next slide. We want to briefly go over the wastewater treatment process just to highlight where the solids come from, the process behind that, and why it's so important. So this is an aerial view of the Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant. It is a large, complex facility, and the wastewater treatment process begins with what's called pre-treatment. This is our headworks facility, and in addition to regulating the flow that comes into the plant, the headworks facility also has screen rooms where large debris is screened out when it comes into the plant. These screen out things like rags, larger debris, other things that just can't get through the rest of the process. The material that's collected in this phase is considered rubbish. It's considered refuse and is taken to the landfill for disposal. Next slide. After pre-treatment, the wastewater enters what's called primary treatment. Now, this primary treatment is physical treatment. So the wastewater is pumped into large settling tanks, and solids are allowed to, just by physical gravity, settle to the bottom of the tanks. The water, the lighter water, is at the top, flows over weirs, and is then moving to the next process. The solids that are generated as resulting from this process are then taken to another part of the plant for additional solids processing. Next slide. After primary treatment, it goes into secondary treatment. Now, this is the largest portion of the plant, just in physical space-wise. At this phase, this is biological treatment. So there are 3 large basins where activated, oxygenated microorganisms actually consume and digest the solid organic material that remains in the wastewater. As that happens, the particles become larger. And similar to primary treatment, they fall to the bottom of settling tanks. They are then taken and then processed for more solids processing. At this point, the water is extremely clean. And in many places around the country and even in the world, secondary treatment is the most advanced form of treatment that is done. In Maryland, we go a step further. So next slide. We have what's called enhanced or tertiary treatment. At this point, the water travels through sand filters, so any fine, small particles are filtered out, and then it goes into a facility where nitrogen and phosphorus are removed. Now, these aren't obviously solids, but they are very important in generating the nutrients needed for algae that are growing in waterways. This decreases the oxygen in the waterways, which can degrade the ecosystem. So that is the third or highest form of treatment that we do at that point. Next slide. At that point, the water is then fully treated. It goes into decontamination and disinfected, where it is hit with some chlorine to kill off any of the microorganisms, and then the chlorine is neutralized before it's eventually discharged into the Back River into Back River. Next slide. So all the solids I mentioned in the primary treatment process, the secondary treatment process, and then from the sand filters goes to another portion of the plant for additional processing. This is where the large egg-shaped digesters come in. This is where the solids are digested. There are drying mechanisms in there. There are what we call thickening processes to make sure that the solids are as dry as possible and are able to be manipulated. Now, after this process, next slide, it goes to the final solids management area of the plant. This is where our 2 vendors have facilities, Synagro being one. They handle 70% of our solids management. And this is where we also put the remaining material onto trucks and other places for transport. The other facility is an industrial composting facility. So that happens at the southern portion of the plant for final processing. And then the last slide here, this is the Synagro facility. The Synagro facility is sort of the workhorse of the solids management process. It handles 70% of all of the solids. The solids that go there are super dry, they're extremely dry, and they are then processed into pellets. The pellets are then used and sold on the market for different industrial and agricultural purposes around the country. The solids management process is critical to the entire process of the plant. It operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If we cannot dispose and remove of the solids, the entire processes of the plant back up, which means that the quality that we are providing in the different streams isn't as high. That was one of the issues that we had in the recent concerns, some of the recent concerns we had with the plants. I can say now the plant is operating at peak performance. We've mentioned it before. The effluent it's discharging has never been of higher quality than it is right now. And a lot of that is because the solids management process is working and is being done at a very high level and a very expedited level. At this point, Mr. President, with your permission, I'd like to ask Deputy Bureau Head Mike Coleman to go more into the Synagro contract.
Hi, good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Comptroller, Madam CAO, honorable members of the board. Michael Hallman, Deputy Bureau Head of Water and Wastewater. Thank you to Deputy Director Garbark for such a comprehensive overview of what happens out there. Might take my job one day. Who knows? He did a pretty good job with that, so that's great. So this particular graphic here on the screen kind of highlights where the solids treatment process is, and it highlights our three separate vendors, three different contracts we have. So I just wanted to take a second here to help avoid some confusion and thoughts that may be some overlap there. So in the grayish, bluish area, these are items that are operated by our staffing augmentation partners with Jacobs. They're helping us, along with city staff there, in order to process the biosolids, in order to get them into a state that's necessary for our composting partners, which are in peach/pink, I guess, for spring, from Veolia, where they are then trucked out to Quarantine Road landfill, where they're run through the compost facility and then disposed of after that point. But today's conversation involves the green highlighted area, and that being Synagro, where they take a bit different concentration of total solids out of the solids processing area. They dewater it through their own centrifuges, and then they will dry that material within their drying systems, create those pellets that the Deputy Director was just talking about. And then they'll dispose of that off of the plant. So for a bit of perspective, he showed an overview of...
Apologies, just real quick. Where do they dispose of the...
The pellets are actually sold out to market to agricultural, so to farmers. They're sold out to concrete plants for use within their mix. They have a variety of outlets that they go for.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Again, to kind of add a bit of perspective here, that plant, the Back River plant itself is huge. It's 466 acres of a plant. It's twice the size of the number 2 plant in the state, which is also our plant over in Patapsco, okay? And Back River produces well over 100 dry tons per day of material. That's every day, no matter what, we have to get rid of this amount of material through our various outlets. So we don't really have much option in that. And during wet weather, it can be substantially more than that. Next slide, please. And so, yeah, thank you. Okay, so Veolia removes about 30 dry tons per day, give or take, of the materials, where Synagro removes about 70 dry tons of that per day. I think it's important to note some actions before we get to the amendment speech here of what else we're doing here within the department. We actually have an RFP out for advertisement currently for a new biosolids removal vendor. with more current technologies because the existing Synagro facility dates back to 1991. There's been a few changes to it, but not a whole lot since 1991. And that's not only got to be able to handle our current needs, but also has to be able to anticipate our future needs. If anybody's paying attention to what's happening in Annapolis, regulatory requirements are just getting more and more stringent in terms of PFAS, PFOA, these other contaminants of emerging concern that we need to be prepared for. So much so that we could be limited in what we can be able to send out for a land application, so that could definitely be impacting what our composting operation could be. Coupled with that, there is potential future requirements there for destruction of PFAS, which is a little bit further down the road, but still needs to be of consideration here as we go forward. So we need a system that's going to be current, state-of-the-art, as well as flexible for this very dynamic regulatory environment we're under for that. So one of the keys here with this RFP, because we have to be dynamic and we have to be more forward-thinking, is continuing to utilize public-private partnerships, which is why we're going with the chosen method here of design, build, finance, operate, and maintain. These systems are going to be very new, very state-of-the-art, very complex to be able to operate, and so we need our partners out in industry to help us be able to realize what our goals are overall. And so being able to utilize those types of partnerships will help be able to kind of offset the upfront capital costs that we're going to have to potentially incur in terms of getting a new facility. Construction alone of a new PFAS facility, PFAS capable of handling facility, could be north of $100 million just in that facility alone. And that's before we get to the operate and maintain functions associated with that. So making sure that we go through the process, that we take our time, that we are diligent in what we do here to make sure we select the appropriate vendor for us, is absolutely critical. It's important that not only we look at it from a capital standpoint, but also from a risk standpoint when we're making that assessment and the selection of that potential vendor. And in order to make that viable, we will be coming back to the board at some point, but that agreement will likely be at least 20 years in order to make that economically viable for the selected source. So next slide, please. So it's a little bit about what we're doing also, but what do we do in the interim? Because biosolids are happening as we speak right now, so we have to be able to continue to process them. So the current contract, as I stated earlier, began in 1991. It's undergone about 4 different amendments, and there's an expiration date of the end of this particular month. It's important to note that there's also a lease agreement with Synagro that does not expire until 2030. The current amendment being requested by the board today has a base contract of 4 years with renewable options to provide that necessary flexibility if we need to add scope to the new vendor that's selected in the RFP I was just speaking about a few minutes ago. It'll also align the current operations contract with the termination of the lease agreement. Continued biosolids removal by Synagro is absolutely critical until a new vendor can be selected, a new facility is constructed, started up, commissioned. That's about 3 to 4 years after selection of that particular vendor. Synagro currently already has their facility on site, and it's in sound operation. It's helping us to continue to maintain our tremendous effluent performance, which we've been in compliance since June of 2022. But we've also been noted by the state at Back River, particularly of its nutrient performance and leading the state in its Chesapeake Bay TMDL goals. All right, next slide, please. Okay, and then here on this final slide, we have the timeline that's associated with the extension and projected costs based on our operational needs. Again, I have to reiterate the changing regulatory environment we are in, which requires flexibility, and which is why we've structured the amendment the way that we have with the base 4 years and city optional extension years. These extension years give the city flexibility in case the new facility happens to take longer than expected to build or become operational. This helps avoid costly emergency service contracts. Also, under the existing contract, Synagro could legally stay on the property for 5 years after the current operations contract is ended, even without providing any services. The optional extensions help replace that lease agreement. It also helped in our negotiations with Synagro at a better unit cost per dry ton of removal. In fact, the rate we have negotiated under this structure is the lowest available for sludge processing. I have a couple other notes here if you'd like to know about anaerobic digestion and how we projected our costs out here over the maximum for the first 2 years and minimum for the second 2 years, because that's based off a capital project underway for the egg-shaped digesters. So I can give more context as needed, but otherwise I will open it up for questions from the board.
Thank you. And I will note that Mr. Garbark will someday take all of our jobs. He is much like artificial intelligence in that way. Don't get excited, Sharky. I see you over there. It's another robot. What is the plan for competitively bidding this contract out in the future? Understand what you're doing with it now, but I am curious how we're thinking about being able to ultimately enter some competition into the space. Not a knock on Synagro, but
Right.
want to understand how we're thinking about this for the future.
Yeah, this RFP is pretty broad about trying to bring those technologies up to date with it. We already have had one pre-bid meeting out with a number of interested companies, and we have 4 to 5 different potential submissions. We actually just extended the advertisement until August the 1st, just based on some questions and all that we've been receiving in there. We want to give due diligence time for these folks. Again, we need to make sure that we take our time and make the right decision or the best decision we can, because whoever is ultimately selected, it's going to be our partner for what's going to outlive most of us here in this room, for 20 years at least.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. Well, our 10 years with the city. Hopefully we're all around for 20 years, but, it is what it is.
It'll outlast us from our city job perspective.
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
That's
All
correct,
right.
sir.
Okay. It's like
I apologize for any early morning heart attack discussions here. I apologize. But we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence and we are making sure we select the right people for the city long term to meet all of our needs.
Yeah, and on that note, could you talk about performance metrics, how we plan to evaluate this contract? Just give me a sense of how we're looking at performance.
You talk about for the future or for the current Synagro amendment?
I would say for the Synagro amendment and then
Okay.
moving into the future.
Okay, so for the current Synagro amendment, their current contract has a minimum that we need to provide to them of 55 dry tons per day. That's pretty easy for us to be able to meet, given our current load. So us being able to meet that is not of issue. They're solely limited just by the amount of equipment they have on hand, which still far surpasses what our needs are based on the diversity we have within our process stream, utilizing Veolia. Obviously, we have the landfill for those much larger debris item removals from the beginning of the plant. What they have is more than sufficient, but their performance metrics alone are based on their tonnage and how much they're able to remove on a daily basis. For the future, though, this is where we need to, we're very open, I will say, to the various technologies that are out there. There are options where there could be a centralized facility located out of state for a biochar technology. There's also technologies which are proprietary by another vendor that we looked at down in North Carolina, which provides a product similar to pellets, but a little bit different, but is already meeting, far surpassing what's required by a regulatory environment. And then there is what could be coming down the road potentially from Synagro, who is going to be a potential bidder.
So real quick, on that company or others, are we engaging with them now? Is there interest? I mean, is it?
That's correct.
an
Yes,
open-
that's what we are. That's why we actually extended the advertisement another 3 months, based on the questions we're getting back from them. And then, while we have to be careful about engaging in solitary conversations with them until their submissions are in, but there is a lot of interest in some of the technologies that are available out there. We're aware of the technologies, but we can't get into in-depth discussions with any individual vendor until
Understood.
then.
Just the idea of competition within the market.
Oh,
is
absolutely.
important.
Absolutely, yeah. It's, we, when we go out and we go to the various, conferences and whatnot, we are sought out by a number of vendors because they understand the gravity of the situation, how tight our environment is versus maybe some of our partner states that are out there, and that, there's a lot of competition out there chomping at the bit to try to get their foot in the door here in Baltimore, and then for them to be able to kind of showcase what they do. Some of our apprehensions have to do with scalability of their particular operations. Again, when we're talking about PFAS in this changing regulatory environment, it's kind of a moving target on where those permit levels are going to lie, and that how well these particular technologies can treat down to what level, and can they meet the very large orders of magnitude need that we have at both of our facilities. So it's a very complex review that has to happen there with each of them.
Understood. I've made a big push these last couple weeks around bringing functions in-house.
Yeah.
The director informed me that this is a highly complex, and I watched your slides and watched all the moving pieces process. Are there elements of it? I understand that for the time being, this is a function that will need to be contracted. Are there elements that could be brought in-house within DPW?
Well, as I stated in one of the earlier slides where I showed the variety between Jacobs and Veolia and Synagro, those three different areas, we are working diligently to build our staff up to remove Jacobs out of that particular equation and remove that staffing augmentation requirement. But when it comes down to like the drying technology and being able to operate those facilities, right now those are going to be for skill sets well outside of what our staff are capable of doing at this time. That would have to be an entire endeavor in itself, creating of classifications and qualifications associated with it. There's different permitting and licensure that's required with it, so it's a much more in-depth process, which is why I think it's important that we look at those public-private partnerships and have, strategically think about those particular vendors who we bring in to help offset where our staff is, their capabilities lie. Yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. The other thing I'd point is that these vendors are responsible for the final disposal. So they take the risk. If there's market disruption, which there have been in this field, it is on them to take it. That's the big piece here. If we had to make sure that we were always finding new economic streams, new markets for this, that would be a particular risk. We've had some issues with this in the years past. I'm not going to say anything, but they involved a train where we put it on a train and they sent it around the country. I think people might remember this. And it had a particular name that was not very nice, went around the country and ended up coming back. But that was one of the issues where we can dry, we can process, but the final stream, distribution, and market is where the risk in the private sector makes sense for them to hold that and the city not to hold that.
When you say risk, as we export the pellets and materials and whatnot, they absorb whatever those costs are, and whatever if a train were to have a problem, that becomes their liability, not ours.
So over the years, there have been certain changes in requirements where you can use certain materials in certain states and other places. So some businesses may close, others may open. That's all on the vendor to make sure that they dispose it. They are required to dispose of it. We give it to them. They take that risk in trying to find the end product and the end market for them.
Got it. Makes sense. We'll continue to push for as many functions as we can do in-house within the department, but appreciate that. Mr. Comptroller?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning.
Two logistical or technical questions. One is going back to you were explaining the overall process when before the water goes into Back River, you said we neutralize the chlorination. How do we neutralize the chlorination?
Sodium bisulfite.
Thank you.
Yep.
And
Like you said.
that's what you get to do instead of the anaerobic digestion. Okay. But okay, now sort of a larger logistical question. What is the long-term? Okay, no, let me start over. Whatever new contract we end up providing with whatever new vendor, even if it ends up being Synagro again, somebody's building a new facility.
Yes.
Like even if Synagro gets the contract again, they're going to build a new facility with new technology. What happens to the existing facility?
Do you want to answer?
Yeah. The existing facility is technically the property of the city, and so we would take back over all the equipment, and we can, decommission it as we see fit.
Okay, we could decommission it as we see fit. Have there been any conversations about making the I'm forgetting there's a term of art for when you take apart a facility in a responsible fashion and try to recycle the
Deconstruction.
Can we work a deconstruction plan for the facility into the RFP process so that part of what we're doing is we're looking for a partner who's going to help us get rid of the old stuff?
Yeah, it's definitely something we can look into to add into that scope.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that was it. Thank you. Okay.
Seeing and hearing no further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The item is approved. As there is no more business before the board, we will now adjourn this meeting. Before we dismiss this meeting, I want to announce for the public that as we enter budget season, we are preparing for our annual Board of Estimates Taxpayers Night that is now scheduled for April 23rd here in the Board of Estimates room. More information will be available soon on the BOE website and the City Council Legistar page. The next regular meeting of the Board of Estimates will occur on Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025 at 9 a.m. I thank everyone for participating and tuning in. Baltimore, stay safe, stay warm.
Hi, TV25, we're ready to start. Thank you. You guys ready? Yep. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Estimates bid opening for March 19th, 2025. We apologize for getting a little bit of a late start. We had some organizing of some of the bids to do to be ready. Okay. The note I've been handed will make more sense in a few minutes. We don't have any addenda to announce, correct? Correct. Okay. So we have no addenda to announce, so no date changes coming up that we are aware of at this time. And we have 6 bids that we're opening today, and first up is for procurement. Yes, we're starting with procurement. Great. We are starting with a bid for procurement for RFP 000650. This is for management of parking garages, groups 1, 2, 3, and 4, price opening.
Where procurement has requested that we open 2 bids, 2 of the Part Bs that were received. So I'll start with the first one, which is
I'm sorry, you said these are Part Bs?
Yes, Part Bs.
I want to note that before we continue. Oh, I can't make notes because of the formatting. Okay. I cannot make a note on this page because of the formatting.
Scroll to the right.
Okay,
Or make
it says it on the.
If you make
it's-
it in the summary page, it should reflect on the.
It's in the column, but it's not on the list where it would then show up on the tab sheet for folks that just look at the tab sheet. So I just changed it. Yes, I understand. It just was made in the column instead of in a place where it would actually show up. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so this is a Part B opening, so price only for, again, for RFP 650. And
All right,
up
and
first.
The first one is from PMS Parking Incorporated. And I received one price sheet. There was no duplicate, just one price sheet.
No duplicate.
And the total is $278,400.
That number was 270,400.00.
No, 278,400.
Sorry. And there was one original.
Yep.
And there's no security for this, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And for those folks watching who ask, we are aware our mics are on when we are sharing back and forth information or asking each other questions. We do not filter the opening process. So you're just hearing us organizing what's happening with the paper in front of us as we go. Up next.
And the second bid is from SP Plus. Yeah, that's their full name. Yep. SP Plus. And the grand total is 806,400.
Hold on a second.
One original.
There's one original, no copies.
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to repeat that number back, 806,400.00.
That's correct.
Okay, and I'm going to repeat both of the bidders back to you, if you don't mind, just to make sure that those numbers are accurate, since I don't have a copy to compare. The first bid was from PMS Parking Incorporated for $278,400. And the second bid was from SP Plus Corporation for $806,400. Yeah, great. That was the final of 2 bids for RFP 000650, Management of Parking Garages, Groups 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, this was a price opening, or a Part B, as we call it. Up next, we have RFQ 000650. This is also a Part B opening for Management of Parking Garages.
No.
Is that a repeat?
No, it's a repeat.
Okay, then, oh, wait, no. There's a tab that says 689, and there's a contract that says 650. Oh, sorry. Do you want my glasses? Is there a 689?
I think so.
Oh, I could have. Oh, okay. So this is a procurement bid. It is RFQ 000689, and this is for water meter expansion connector.
That is correct, and we have one bidder for this, and it is a list price, so I'm just gonna read the bidder's name.
Okay.
We have one bid received from Ferguson Enterprise. I have one original, 2 copies, and 1 flash drive.
One flash drive. No security, correct?
No security.
Just making sure. Okay, and these are list prices. And the bidder was again?
Ferguson Enterprise.
Okay. And is that our only bid?
That was our only bidder.
Okay, so our only bid for RFQ 000689 is Ferguson Enterprise LLC. They are providing list prices, which means we do not have a total to share, and this will be referred to the agency for review, of course. Up next, we have for transportation, resurfacing of highways at various locations, Northeast Sector 1. This is TR 25007. Are we looking at the same one?
That is correct.
Thanks.
For this bid and then the following 3 bids, we have mostly the same bidders. So you're gonna hear a lot of repeat names. And we're gonna go slow because these are gigantic piles of paper.
So this is 25007, Northeast Sector 1.
That's correct. Our first bid is from M. Louise Construction.
Okay.
They have a bid bond. And the total bid is $3,973,786.00.
Okay, that number was 3,973,780.
786.
I should have known. That's the key that sticks on my laptop. 786.00.
That's correct.
And we have a duplicate column on the
We have a
bid sheet that we
duplicate.
need to pull out. But we did have a bond. We have how many duplicates?
1 duplicate.
1 and 1 original. May I see the copy, please? Thank you.
The middle number on the sticky note is the page you're looking for,
Oh,
which is 340.
it says 341R.
Oh, it will, in between that range.
3, 4, 1, okay. So this bidder confirming their total is M. Louise, and the bid is $3,973,786.00. Thanks.
Okay. Can you hand me that binder clip? Sorry, this one is binded by a binder clip, so it's a little bit of a upheaval to go through. The second bid for TR 25007 was submitted by Peniagua Enterprises.
I don't have them on the list.
They weren't, the envelope wasn't marked,
Okay.
so
Okay.
you're gonna have a few like that.
Okay, can you spell that for me then, please?
Yep, it is PANIAGUA Enterprises.
Peniagua Enterprises. Okay.
And we do have I marked it extra here. We do have a bid bond. And so sorry. A lot of And the total bid is sorry, I just want to double check it. This is a reminder that while nothing we say during bid openings is binding on the award, binding your bids will help us greatly in opening them. 5 million, the total bid, I think, is 5,346,245.
Okay, may I see the copy, please? Is that all loose sheets too?
It's smaller.
Well, that's good news. Okay. Thank you. Confirming that total as $5,346,245.00 for Peniagua Enterprises.
Correct.
Thanks, Case. And you did say yes to the bond security?
There is a bid bond.
Thanks. And here's the copy.
That's why I go to the gym.
You don't have to. You can just lift bids.
Just gonna start squatting with all the bids. All right, our next bid for TR 25007 is from P. Flanagan's and Sons Incorporated. We have a bid bond for them. And the total bid is $3,544,000.00.
That number was 3,544,000.00.
That's correct.
Can we see a copy, please? Thank you. And you did say we have a signed bond.
Yes.
Great. And confirming that total for P. Flanagan and Sons is $3,544,000.00. Thanks, Casey.
Okay, we have one more for TR 25007. This bid is from Gray and Son Incorporated. The total bid is $3,779,000.00.
Would you repeat that number, please?
Yep. $3,779,000.00.
Okay, that number was 3,779,000.00.
That is correct.
And we have a security?
Yes, we have a bid bond.
Thank you. And a duplicate and an original?
Correct.
Good. Okay. And confirming that total for Gray and Son is $3,779,000.00.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that was our final of 4, correct?
Correct.
That was our final of 4 bidders for contract number TR25007, resurfacing of highways at various locations, Northeast Sector 1. I have TR25008 as the next one, but it's marked Northeast Sector 1.
It's Northwest 7. Can I see it?
Can you check that one?
I think it's a format.
Okay. I'm gonna give it to you then.
Formatting error.
There's a couple extra columns we'll need to clean up too in the final for posting. So,
Okay, for TR25008, resurfacing highways at various locations. Northwest Sector 2.
2.
I have the following bids to announce. Okay, the first bid is from M. Louise Construction.
Okay.
Wait, I'm lying. This bid has an addenda sheet that says TR25008 on the cover, but inside is TR25010. I'm going to put this back in the 010 pile because it just has the incorrect cover sheet. That incorrect addenda on the as the top sheet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So inside this is 25008.
Inside is 10.
So, okay.
On
I'm
the
trying to
front
understand
page.
what notation to make here.
On the front page, the addenda says 8.
But it's really for a
Inside.
different bid.
It says 10.
Okay. So we're going to move it to the 10.
We're going to move this to the 10 pile. We made
And presumably somewhere there is a 10
with an 8 on it.
with an 8 on it. Okay.
So, Adventures in Paper.
Yeah. We're going to go slow, and to help folks who are watching this understand, we think that
Can you close the door?
in handing these bids in that mistakenly addenda pages were switched. So this will end up getting reviewed by law and the agency. But what we think is that it's just a paper error that
Yeah.
you're hearing us trying to work through to make sure we read the correct bid total for the correct contract number.
All right, so the first bid, maybe I'm actually, is for TR25008. Looking, validating inside, also says TR25008.
And does the copy also say 008? Just
The-
for extra?
copy says 008.
Okay. Who's
This
for?
is for M. Louise Construction.
Okay.
And the total is $3,898,383.00.
That number was 3,898,383.00.
Correct?
Do you see a bond in the original?
We have a bond in the original.
And may I have a copy? Thank you. 008. So confirming that for TR25008, as this submission is marked, the total for M. Louise is $3,898,383.00. Thanks, Casey.
Okay. The next one for TR25008 is from P. Flanagan and Sons Incorporated. The total bid is $258,899.00.
Okay, that number was 4,273,
That is
899.00.
correct. And there is a bid bond.
Thank you. And confirming for T25008, excuse me, P. Flanagan and Sons has bid $4,273,899.00. Thank you.
All right, next one. And I believe the last for 08, but we'll see. We'll see. Yep. 08. This is from Gray and Son Incorporated. They do have a bid bond. And the total bid is $3,789,000.00.
That number was 3,789,000.00.
Correct.
Okay. And there's a dupe and an original.
Correct.
And may I see the copy? Okay. For Gray and Son, confirming their bid at $3,789,000.00.
Okay.
Yep. And that was the final of 3 bids, we believe, for 25008. Resurfacing highways at various locations, Northwest Sector 2. Again, that was 25008. And up next is TR 25009, which is resurfacing highways at various locations, Southwest Sector 3. Yes?
That is correct. The first bid, I'm going to note, has an addenda sheet for TR 25008, but the contents are
Who is that?
09.
Who is that?
One moment.
Because I don't know who to note that next.
M. Louise Construction
So that has an addenda sheet labeled as what? I'm sorry.
for TR 25008.
Okay, thank you. And this is for M. Louise.
Yes.
But the actual bid is labeled 25009.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
From M. Louise. They do have a bid bond. And the total bid is $3,864,002.00.
That was 3,864,002.00.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay,
Here's a duplicate.
thank you. Okay, so I see the same thing. There's the sheet on front says 25008, but the bid inside references contract 25009, and all the pages are labeled as such, including the bid amount, which I'm confirming that bid amount as $3,864,002.00 for M. Louise. Thanks.
The final bid for TR 25009 is from P. Flanagan Sons Incorporated. They do have a bid bond. And the total is $3,847,284.00.
That was 3,847,284.00.
That's correct.
These both had a dupe and an original, yes?
Correct.
Okay, let me see a copy, please. Thanks. Okay, this is for 25009 from P. Flanagan and Sons. And confirming the bid amount, again for P. Flanagan and Sons, is $3,847,284.00. And that was our final of two. For TR 25009, resurfacing highways at various locations, Southwest Sector 3. And we have one more.
Okay, let's see what we got here.
Let me call it out. TR 25010, resurfacing highways at various locations, Southeast Sector 4. Yes?
Yes.
Very good.
Okay. The first bid is from M. Louise. Going to note the bid for M. Louise. The inside is marked TR 25010. Sorry, TR 25010. The cover sheet or the addenda that's stapled on top says TR 25008. That is for, they say that on the original and the duplicate, but we're going to read this out for,
Because the whole interior
whole-
is 10. Okay,
yes.
got it.
So, they do have a bid bond,
Thank you.
and the total bid amount is $3,961,199.00.
That was 3,916?
Nope. Sorry.
691?
3,961.
Sorry. I'm going to repeat that again. And then maybe clean my keyboard. that was $3,961,199.00.
That's correct.
Okay, that bid was for M. Louise, and I'm going to also confirm via the copy that Casey hands me.
I like to think that there are frequent flyers that watch this have a bingo card that check off every time your six gets stuck.
Probably. Confirming the addenda references 25008, but the interior of the bid is entirely labeled as 25010, which is the bid we are opening. And this is for sorry, I'm being super detailed today. The front sheet looks different, but this is all labeled 25010 for the name? Where's the name?
It should be, I think, page
60R. I just want to make sure it's marked on the inside as the same bidder, and every place I think I'm going to see the name, it's not marked.
Does it say it on the bid one?
Yeah, no, that's where I'm going to go next. I'm going to go through this very slowly. I'm sorry. This part is going to be very boring.
That's right, Charm TV, she was the entertaining music.
Play the music. Okay.
It's a duplicate, and there's extra blank pages where it should be.
Yeah. But I am confirming this is the M. Louise bid, because it's marked on another interior page on, well, actually, that's a copy of the bond, isn't it? Yeah, no. Yes. So it is the bid for M. Louise. I just wanted to be absolutely sure we have everything all synchronized. And then the bid confirming the number is for M. Louise, $3,961,199.00.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next up. This is a bid from Peniagua Enterprises.
Hang on a sec. We weren't able to identify them from their envelope.
Yes.
Panigua, right? Enterprises.
Paniagua.
Okay.
The total bid is 5,225,625.
That number was 5,225,625.00.
That's correct.
Do we have a bond?
We do have a bid bond, and here's the duplicate.
Thanks. Okay, this is for 25010 from Peniagua, and confirming their bid amount as $5,225,625 and 0 cents. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have two left. This is gonna have a note. This is from Gray and Son Incorporated. The addenda sheet stapled on top of the bid says TR 25008. The contents of the bid are for TR 25010.
What is going on? Okay.
For Gray and Son, we do have a bid bond.
Mm-hmm.
And the total is $3,965,600.00.
That number was 3,965,000.
No. 3,965,600.
I promise I will take care of this today. 3,965,600.00.
That is correct. I'm going to hand you the duplicate.
And there is a bond, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And the copy is also marked as 25010 from Gray and Son, and the bid amount is confirmed as $3,965,600.00.
Cool. Okay, last one. We have a bid from, this one was, from P. Flanagan and Sons Incorporated. The total bid is $3,945,516.00.
That number was 3,944,516.00.
That is correct.
And we have a bond.
Yeah, one moment. And we do have a bid bond.
Great. Thank you. Again, confirming this is for 25010. The bidder is P. Flanagan, and the bond amount is,
The bid sum, not the bond amount.
I'm sorry?
Bid sum.
Oh, sorry, the bid amount is $3,944,516.00. And that's our final of four.
Yes, ma'am.
For TR 25010, resurfacing highways at various locations, southeast sector 4.
Correct.
And that was our final opening for today. So some of these, because of the discrepancy, are going to be referred to law and the...
Law has showed up.
Law has showed up. So they are being referred to law as we speak. And then they'll be referred to the agency for final review. We should be posting these results by close of business today, if not sooner. So please check the comptroller's website for this, the bid tabulations. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Our next bid opening is April 2nd.
April 2nd, and it will be a big bid opening.
It will be, so brace yourselves because we will also be opening the votes for the Midtown Benefits District.
Yes, bring
which
snacks.
You will need snacks for that. It's going to take a minute because there's a lot of envelopes to open that day. We will do the business bids first on April 2nd.
The business before, yes.
Followed by the votes for Midtown Benefits District itself. So we'll tune in then and we'll see you at 12 noon on April 2nd. Thanks everyone. Thanks team. Thanks.